Quick reminder before the video starts, YouTube is still kind of being weird about notifying subscribers for when new videos are released, so if you want to make sure you get every one of my videos, please click the notification bell down below or follow me on Instagram or Twitter. Thank you.
Digimon. On the surface, it's a Pokemon clone, but once you dive deeper, you discover it's actually a Tamagotchi clone. But for boys. Digimon's style was influenced by cool things like Marvel Comics, but I think they took a little too much influence from Rob Liefeld. Look at this dinosaur with pecs. The concept is simple enough. You have digital pets, digital monsters, Digimon. As you raise them, you take care of them, and they transform into bigger Digimon. The anime adaptation, Digimon Adventure, which really only existed to promote and sell a line of toys and video games, took this simple concept and made a heartfelt story out of it. 7 kids on summer vacation are transported to a magical world, the digital world. While trying to survive in this new environment and get home, they're each given a partner Digimon and a Digivice, which helps them to channel the bond between them and their Digimon. The animation in this show sucks. You probably start to notice it around the 78th time an attack animation is recycled in the same episode, so characters are used as a crutch for the lack of exciting action. As the kids grow up and develop, their Digimon are able to reach stronger forms or Digivolve. Eventually, the kids take on the responsibility of Digidestined to save the digital world from evil. It's flawed, it's silly, but it also grounds itself within its characters. The original series holds a special place in my heart nostalgically, but for some reason, despite watching it on TV just as much, I can't say the same for Adventure 02, the sequel. I think it's because there weren't as many home video releases, so maybe not having access to it all the time resulted in less of a connection.
It's weird because as a kid, I remember liking 02 significantly more than the original. But that's probably just because the main Digimon was blue, and my favorite color was blue. My critiquing skills haven't grown up that much.
Adventure 02 has more animation than Adventure. It's not high quality animation, but there's more of it, just like how there's more characters. They aren't high quality characters, but there's more of them. Adventure 02 takes place 3 years after the original show. It's not Digimon Adventure 2, it's specifically 02, referencing 2002, the best year. The year of blue. If you're watching the English dub, all of the original kids are now in high school except for the younger ones, TK and Kari. For the most part, the older kids are sidelined for the new team. TK, Kari, Yoli, Cody, and Davis, all of whom are introduced and reintroduced in a messy first 2 episodes. There's a lot of exposition, yet hardly any time is spent introducing the new kids to the world. 02 aired only a week after the original series finished, so the audience didn't have to be reintroduced to anything, but hearing the new kids spit out digital world jargon is odd because they haven't had anything explained to them yet.
Digi-Armor, energize!
The key narrative difference with the original is the fact that no one is trapped in the digital world. The new team is given a new Digivice called a D3, which can be used to open up gateways to the digital world from any computer. So the older kids have to catch a ride with the new ones. Usually 1 or 2 of the older kids will tag along, so they're not completely absent, just completely useless. The D3s are an important plot point and tie into the show's primary villain, the Digimon Emperor, the first human villain in Digimon. The Emperor uses a Darhk Digivice to take control of wild Digimon and block the original kids' Digimon from transforming to higher power levels. He amplifies this power throughout the digital world using dark cell phone towers called Dark Spires. The new kids get around this through a new transformation, by using power from Digi-Eggs and the new Digivices to equip their Digimon with Digi-Armor to armor Digivolve into Armor Digimon. Now that's branding. On a side note, Digimon Adventure bred all of these cool Transformer-style toys where you take one Digimon and transform it into another. Digimon 02 had a similar line, but instead it was just eggs. Which is lame. The ability to go in and out of the digital world kind of eliminates the greater sense of adventure that Adventure had. There's no camping or scavenging for food, they just go home to their beds at the end of the episode. There's less urgency, and sometimes it's tedious. They go out for a bit, destroy a couple control spires, maybe find a new Digi-Egg, rinse, and repeat. Often it feels more like they're running errands rather than having this great adventure. It's also hard to accept these new kids are automatically invested in what happens to the digital world. They take on the objective to defeat the Emperor immediately. In Adventure, their objective at first was self-serving. They had to get home. It was only later they took on the greater responsibility of protecting the digital world. Poor format aside, when the show is on, it's really strong. We're soon introduced to Ken, the real identity of the Digimon Emperor. In episode 8, Davis plays a soccer game against Ken without knowing he's the Emperor. I love it! Dramatic irony. But by the end of the episode, Ken reveals his identity and runs away from home to live in the digital world. Getting rid of Ken's human world storyline makes this side of the story more of a weight onto the plot. This could have been a great opportunity to build dramatic irony and differentiate the sequel from the original. Maybe Ken gets close to the team without them knowing he's the Emperor. He could find out information about the kids' lives and use it to his advantage. But the only dramatic elements that come from the human world side of the story are the kids having to hide their Digimon from and to find excuses to tell their parents when they've been spending time in the digital world. At this point, it's stale and a missed opportunity for something new. Still, Ken is the most interesting villain from either of the series. This is the first human villain Digimon has had, and it's also the first villain with depth. It's a lot more depth than a monkey doing an Elvis impersonation. I mean, he kicks a puppy. Ken's partner Digimon Wormmon tries to act as Ken's conscience, and we get a sense that Ken hasn't always been the puppy-kicking type. He's messing around with the darkness of the digital world, which is something he really doesn't understand. When he tries to make his own Digimon, he ends up stealing data from Devimon, the first villain from the original series and a bit of a sore spot for TK. TK's Digimon died in a battle with Devimon. Digimon get reborn, so don't worry about that. So seeing Ken screw with Devimon is the turning point. It's one thing when Thor Turtle Jamie Heinemannmon attacks the magic vampire, but it's another feeling entirely when two kids are punching each other in the face.
When you can't think of anything to say, do you always resort to fighting?
I guess.
The scene where TK confronts Ken is so tonally different from any other part of the show, but that's why it works. No other villain in Digimon has ever doubted themselves. They're cartoon villains, unable to question their moral alignment. But Ken is human and able to change. And when I say change, I don't just mean the kitty cat turning into a scantily clad angel whose figure now costs $4,000, I mean character development. Ken getting his ass kicked and losing his Digimon opens his eyes to all the dumb shit he's done. We learn Ken hasn't always kicked puppies, but his turn to darkness began through his grieving, after his older brother was hit by a car and died. Digimon has always dealt with these heavier domestic family issues, but having a character become a villain and go through a redemption arc as a result of their problems takes the concept to another level. That's what a sequel should do. Ken is eventually brought into the team and becomes a core member. But all that development is thrown out the window when they explain Ken just had an evil spore inside of him, which made him evil. Because why have a complex character when magic?
Before the video continues, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my new patrons on Patreon who claimed the Shoutout reward tier. So special thanks to both Grim Dark and Bobby Corin, whose YouTube link is in the description down below. I'm also releasing a short review of the Digimon Adventure 02 film, The Revenge of Diaboromon, exclusive to Patreon. So if you want to become a patron and support me there, the link is in the description down below. Thank you to my existing patrons, and on with the video.
Digimon Adventure 02 spends its first 21 episodes dedicated to the Digimon Emperor arc, which eventually wraps up, but not without distraction, and there's a reason for that. After Adventure wrapped up, 2 new creative directors were put in charge of the story, replacing the original director who left to protest a sequel being made. Between their disagreements and studio meddling, the show never found a clear direction after the Emperor storyline. New storylines are introduced and dropped, new antagonists come in and distract from developing plots, and plot lines are introduced only to have a quick, anticlimactic ending. We eventually learn that someone has been controlling Ken, then we learn that person was controlled by somebody else, before finally learning that Myotismon, the best known villain from the first series, was behind it all. Its inclusion feels tacked on, and that's only because it was. Between it, there are small moments where they attempt to recapture the emotional moments from the Emperor storyline and attempts to expand on the lore, but it's ultimately lost amongst the rest of the mess. The show ends with an epilogue, which sees much of the cast pursuing out-of-character careers. It left a bad taste in my mouth. Speaking of bad taste, there are two major storylines which were dropped entirely. The first was hinted at as early on as episode 13. We get a tonally strange episode apart from the Emperor storyline where Kari is brought to this weird alternate dimension between both worlds called the Dark Ocean. At the end of the episode, we hear this sinister music as this dark, giant, silhouetted, evil, Cthulhu-ass looking Digimon rises out of the ocean.
Who is this evil, dark, undersea master? Don't miss the upcoming Digimon, Digital Monsters.
We never hear from it again. Digimon Wiki says it's Dragomon. Wow, this is so much cooler than what we ended up getting. Episode 13 also sees the return of the show's greatest villain, the Digi-Rap.
Digi-Dudes will Digi-Rule with Digi-Ability and Digi-Tool.
The second drop storyline is Daemon, who shows up only a few episodes before the series is over and is defeated a few episodes later. Filler within the final 8 episodes. Daemon is defeated when it gets sent to the Dark Ocean. Two dropped plot lines resolve each other. Instead of Myotismon, Daemon should have been the final villain and have been revealed to be Devimon fully evolved. Daemon is in Devimon's evolutionary line, and it would have bookended the beginning of Adventure with the end of 02 and had a nice little tie into the original series. There are some nice nods to the original series, which are nice. And the plot of the Digimon film Our War Game is important to the new characters. The new kids were chosen to be Digi-destined after witnessing the internet battle featured in Our War Game. This also leads to hundreds of Digi-destined around the world. My favorite series of episode post-Emperor, and actually probably in the whole series, is the Digimon World Tour arc. This sees the old kids teaming up with the new kids and traveling across the world. But I think maybe the reason I like this short saga so much is because it takes place over winter, and all the characters are in cute winter clothes. Aesthetic. We see new Digi-destined and get a chance to see the characters interact one-on-one. And there are also some nice episodes which allow us to see how the original team has grown up over the years. The quiet, personal moments of Digimon are where the show shines. However, I like this arc because we got to spend time with the old cast, and that's a problem. The original show had this really simple plot, so character was always the focus. But the convoluted nature of O2 makes it harder for the characters to develop because it's always changing direction. TK is shown to have trauma, but it never manifests itself in anything but anger. TK is the obvious choice for team leader, but because Davis has goggles, he's chosen despite being totally incompetent in a leadership position. He's the least interesting character and a little shit. Kari, like in the original series, unfortunately never has time to grow. The Dragomon and Dark Ocean storyline seemed like it would be dedicated to her, but her relationship to the Dark Ocean never manifests itself in anything other than her grabbing her head and screaming. Yoli? Well, I like Yoli. She's fun. But Cody is the worst. Let me rephrase that. Cody is treated the worst. He's the youngest member of the team. His arc is him coming into his own and being seen as a valuable member. In the original, TK also had to prove himself as the youngest member. But the difference is the reason why they had to do so. TK's brother, Matt, was overprotective of him in Adventure, but everyone in O2, the characters we're supposed to like, are just totally dismissive of Cody, so his arc requires everyone else to be a jerk. Ken is the only character who's fleshed out, and everyone else's development has to do with their relationship to him. In Adventure, the kids were given crests, representing a trait they best exemplify: courage, friendship, love, etc., which tied directly with their Digimon getting stronger. The Digimon transforming was really symbolic of their own growth. However, in O2, most of the transformations are tied to the Digi-Egg, so most transformations are earned through finding an object instead of character growth. However, to continue to make the old team completely useless, it's revealed that they gave up their crests to protect the digital world in their absence. This creates a few tiny, massive plot holes, but that's just nitpicking, so let's not really get into that. I mean, I don't mind when they make an exception to the rule. The new kids get around this by DNA digivolving, which sees two of their Digimon combining into one. This should be tied into a big character moment, but it actually helps create a big character moment. When Ken and the team are still unsure about working together, Ken and Davis's Digimon come together to form Pyeldramon. It's only then that they start to consider the possibility of Ken joining the team. Paildramon should have only been possible after they all forgave Ken. It would have symbolized their coming together. Even later, DNA Digimon feel underwhelming and unearned. It's just a result of the other kids deciding it's time to let their Digimon come together. As for the new Digimon, they serve the same purpose as they did in the original series. They're either character complements or character contrasts for the human characters, which works a lot better than having them be their own unique characters. The new Digimon are Armadillomon, a Western armadillo, Hawkmon, a hawk, and Vmon, whose English voice sounds like Sid from Ice Age.
Something about Kari. Human girls make human boys act sorta weird.
Digimon is known for its odd English dub, and the dub is as dumb as ever. The actors do a good job, but moments in between drama and action have bad jokes stuffed inside them. Most of them miss, but some actually had me laughing out loud.
Then how does the story of the birds and the bees go?
Later, Davis. Now's not the time. What do you guys want to play?
How about strip club?
Unlike the original series dub, dramatic moments are allowed to play out without added humor, but the choice in sound effects will often be used to undermine the violence.
It's going to win!
One thing Digimon has always been good about were references to Japan being kept in, which is unusual for an English dub, especially for a children's show. The show isn't afraid to call a donut a rice ball.
So I made you some rice balls for your trip.
These donuts are great.
I don't mind the dub so much this time around because the show is a lot more tedious. This plot with a serious tone would just be boring. There are a lot more pop-punk songs featured in the dub, all of which are on the Digimon movie soundtrack, which would be the greatest film soundtrack in history if it were not for the Digirap. And here's a little side note, on the official DVD release of the English dub, sometimes a TV rating stamp will appear in the corner. I wouldn't be surprised if a clean version of the English dub just didn't exist. There are Blu-rays of the Japanese dub available, all of which have great quality, but it's doubtful that there would ever be a new master of the English dub because Digimon has been relegated to a very niche thing. The new characters just aren't nearly as strong as the original. And they're still splitting screen time with the old cast, who always steal my attention when they're on screen, because that's who I care about. I don't hate the new characters. I enjoy watching them interact with the old cast and, Ken. But the show would have worked a lot better if more focus was put onto them, or if they were just taken out entirely. This show could have worked with the old cast while only introducing Ken as a new character. This is a show based on characters, and when the new characters don't add anything, that's a problem. Digimon Adventure has an ongoing sequel film series called Digimon Adventure Try, and within the first few minutes of the first film, we learn the new characters introduced in 02 have been defeated and are nowhere to be seen. The older kids don't seem to miss them very much, and much of the audience doesn't either. If Digimon Try continues after its 6-movie run, I'd like to see them return, but it's not something I'm disappointed about. Digimon Adventure 02 is such a mixed bag. When it's on, it's really strong, but its good moments are so far and few between. Once it gains momentum, it quickly drops, and interesting ideas are forgotten before they have time to develop. Even though its cast as a whole isn't as strong as the original, the more complex ideas are more interesting when the show is willing to explore them.
The cool thing about the Digimon anime series is despite the fact that this really is just a glorified film and video game commercial, the creative team behind it really cares and really tries. Digimon Adventure 02 didn't fail because people didn't care about it. It failed because 2 creative directors fought for their own creative vision. And at the end of the day, that's really cool. So thank you for watching. If you want to stay up to date and make sure you get every single video notification, be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe, as well as follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, and I'll see you next week.